Is this a Gotha that I see before me? A Gotha, my kingdom for a Gotha. Well, you search for years and years trying to get your hands on a rare Wingnut Wings kit, and then two come along at once, don't they? I should have done a Tale of Two Gothas, perhaps, shouldn't I? I thought I'd keep them separate. Anyway, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. You are always most welcome. So, we recently had the review of the 132 scale Wingnut Wings classic Gotha G1 bomber, which was absolutely massive. A real monster kit. And here we've got more of the same, but not the same. Here we have the UWD, the seaplane version. So let's have a little look. And in this artwork, it's depicted actually causing mayhem, flying over the white cliffs of Dover in the background. If you look very carefully, just ahead of where the pilot and the gunner are there. They actually dropped bombs on Dover late in I think it's 1915. I think it was like October 15. But we'll get into that. Let's not waste any time because it's going to take a while. So without further ado, I think I'll get cracking on this one straight away. Yes, once again, I'm afraid it looks like I'm on the wagon, but it's not that. It's just that these big kits that require so much concentration and you know, to get the so much talking and so much reading, I've got to get it right, you know. So I'm on the coffee again. So I've got another mug of coffee. Just going to have a quick slurp, if you forgive me. So we can get into it. Let's have a look what we've got then. Now these are not cheap kits now, I've got to tell you. One of these is going to set you back about £300 or more, anywhere between £300 and £600 depending on where you get it from. And obviously I've raided the lost ark of the depleted stock of Wingnut Wings kits, as have one or two of you, I'm sure. But once that's gone, it's gone, and these are going to become very valuable. So we won't be opening any bags. We will though open. I have actually opened the exterior bags. The only thing I've done with this, I've just, because they come in this sort of outer bag as well, which makes it impossible for photography. You know, it's bad enough as it is to look through one bag, but we can't look through two. That'd be pointless. So it doesn't affect the value at all, because I think they just wrapped them in these big outer bags, you know, for international shipping. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. But we still have the sealed bags, and we're keeping them sealed. So let's have a look at this. Now I just want to show you the artwork on the side so you can see like just the big difference that we have here. Just look at this. So this is these enormous floats that it has on it, as being the seaplane version. I think it was based at Ostend quite a lot of the time. Certainly when it was raiding Britain and attacking Dover. Isn't that a monster? So, without further ado, let's read what they've got to say for themselves, and then we'll get into digging into the kit. Now, I'll try and make this a bit briefer, because quite a lot of the parts we're going to see in this kit we've seen before in the other kit. And I will try to perhaps just truncate it slightly and focus really on the differentiation parts that are in this rather than the standard one. Anyway, the unique Gotha UWD, because there was only one, seaplane was developed from the Gotha G1 land plane, and although only one was ever built, the highly distinctive twin-engine Gotha UWD is nevertheless important because it helped to set Gotha Wagen fabric on the path to building the more conventional seaplanes and bombers that they became famous for. Did they call themselves GWF then? I'm just wondering if the experts amongst you know that. Shout out. Feel free to comment. Excuse me. The aircraft that would serve as the prototype Gotha G1 was designed by Oskar Ursinus, the founder and editor of the Flugsport magazine, Airsport. To the German Army's Type 3 aircraft specification of a 200 horsepower 3-seater, able to fly at over 120 kilometers an hour and carry 450 kilograms for up to 6 hours. Ursinus proposed the idea of building the Kampfflugzeug battle plane to FEA 3 Commander, FEA being the forgotten, it's one of the squadrons. 3 Commander Major Friedel in August 1914. The distinctive high fuselage allowed the two 100 horsepower Daimler Mercedes D1 engines to be placed as close together as possible to minimise the yaw effect should one engine fail. Ah, now I see the logic of it, yes, okay. Construction began the following month utilising Flugzeuge Ersatzabteilung, FEA, which I can't remember, 3's personnel, and the Friedel Ursinus Kampfflugzeug, FU, Friedel Ursinus, okay, that's where the FU comes from, having now been given the serial number B1092-14, took to the air at the end of January 1915. Licence to build the Kampfflugzeug was allocated to Gotha Wagenfabrik in March of 1915. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze any second. Maybe not. And it incorporated many changes, including the 160 horsepower Daimler Mercedes D3 and the 150 horsepower Benz BZ3 engines. Nearly equal span, bomb carrying capacity, wheel type control column, and a modified tailplane. The initial production orders for 6 G1 Gotha land-based aircraft and 1 Ursinus Wasser Doppeldecker, Ursinus Water Double-Decker bomber plane, seaplane version, was placed in April 1915. The UWD was one of several different twin-engine seaplanes ordered by the Navy to fit their requirements for a long-range reconnaissance and torpedo-carrying aircraft. This sole UWD was completed in late December 1915 and given the naval serial number 120. UWD 120 initially featured an upside-down tailplane. Okay, an upside-down tailplane, but this was conspicuously absent from the photos taken during its testing at Warnemünde in January and February 1916. Having now been reinstalled the right way up, it sounds like a mistake, doesn't it? The UWD, unless they were thinking, I wonder if they were thinking of using it almost like rudders in the water. Sounds a bit strange. They're not really designed for that sort of force, are they? Anyway, the UWD was described as very easy to fly and able to take to the air with ease, and was smooth on landing. Sometimes, after passing its testing phase, the UWD 120 had a proboscis bomb dropping tube fitted under its nose. Additional windows were installed and balanced ailerons were fitted. There is currently no evidence to suggest that UWD 120 was ever used to carry a torpedo. UWD 20 was used to bomb the English coast during 1916 and continued to serve the Navy until it was written off in a crash on the 2nd of October 1916. Obviously they decided not to make any more. Right, well there we go. Without further ado, we'll get cracking. Isn't that artwork beautiful though? It's lovely, isn't it? It's lovely. And as I mentioned, our friend Jason at Model Kit Stuff is building this currently, so I'm sure he'll be enjoying this review. I saw some of his work on the cockpit floor, and he's doing stunning work with the wooden effects, you know. Right, now we have this outer bag, which is not really big enough actually, relatively speaking, and doesn't really serve a purpose other than for international shipping, so I'm going to remove that. And I may reseal it actually, because I think this one might be possible with a bit more room, but a bit more sensibly. So what I will do is, I will pop all this in the top cover lid, and we'll have a look at what we got inside. Okay, I'm going to pop that there, that can go there. Let's go. Right, quick slurp of coffee, and we'll get cracking. Yes, you can't have wine and champagne every day, that's what my wife says. Okay. You do need to be on the ball to go through this though. Look at that, it's perfect. Okay, so we'll try and flash through this a little bit quicker than the last one because some of it we've seen before. Here we go. So as usual, we get the Tamiya, Humbrol and Federal Standard FS callouts for the colours, which is great. Excuse me. Then we have the sprue map, which is kind of typical. And this time yes, and I was right, wasn't I? We talked about this in the previous Gotha G1 review, where I was And when I actually got the parts out near the end, the sprues, I was kind of, which one is it? Which one? Yeah. So the float plane, seaplane, has got the much bigger elevators, and the smaller ones are on the land-based aircraft. And then you do get quite a lot of parts and engine parts, etc., that are not used, and propellers and things on this particular variant, including some decals, interestingly, that are not used. That's very interesting. So these cut-out sections here, they're not used for some reason. Maybe it's visibility, I don't know, but we shall find out later. So here we go. Again, we are building up the cockpit floor. And storage case, something different. Storage cases on from the German Navy photos, apparently. Commander's compass and document shelf. And don't forget, this was a later development, so they've got some later ideas going on here. Then you've got the pilot's seat and the buckles, the belts going in. You've got this crawl space. This is the fuel tank here. So to the left, it's not obvious, but to the left is the fuel tank, and this is the crawl space for the commander to crawl back and forth through. You've got a folding seat. This is the stuff that Jason's been. I mentioned Jason. He's been working on this recently, and has done all these lovely wood effects. Mighty impressive it is too. So then we've got the controls for the hand air pump for the pressurisation for the fuel, and we've got the engine controls on the left. All your instrumentation going in. Here we've got a handheld camera. How about that? That's cool. That's very cool. Handheld camera. And then you've got these rather strange, rather flimsy looking struts which support the fuselage weight, the cockpit I should say, the cockpit weight within the fuselage on the between the wings. Then we have got, then we've got this lovely, and this is again talking about Jason, this is I think where he's got to, he's been doing all this, got all the lovely wood effects done. And it does require quite a bit of time I think to get that right. Excuse me. There's quite a lot of rigging as well, which is a bit worrying. Then we've got all these little carbonate bombs, and this time we've got 10 kilograms, very small ones indeed. 10 kilogram carbonate bombs, and then we have the racks that they go in. There's a lot more of them it seems in this version. Over here we've got some lovely photographs. Obviously you're putting in the pulpit arrangement at the front. You've got the gun ring going in there, and it says here fuselage detail from the UWD 120 during the initial testing phase. Note the dark varnished plywood nose, something I'm sure that our friend Jason's going to be working all over. He'll be all over that. And it's got a large window. These are the things that are different from the original aircraft. A large side window, linen covered fuselage section, and pale painted metal access cover and rear cockpit combing can be seen. And it says here, the fuselage front and centre section of the UWD during its initial testing. Note the linen covered middle section, dark varnished plywood nose, and the pale metal brackets. Oh yeah, that's quite cool. And then we are into, this is where it's going to get a little bit different. Rear fuselage, and then you've got this window going in, which I don't think was in the original aircraft. A couple of photos there showing where the centre section is, and the pilot's windscreen there is visible. Cockpit combing, the rear fuselage. It's actually a bit confusing, that photo, because it's in front of a hangar. That's what this is in the background. It's not part of the aircraft. Note the slightly different tones to the various sections of the fuselage. Then we've got our fairly ubiquitous Daimler Mercedes D3 engine. So this is the later engine, it's not the Benz one that we saw in the other aircraft. Fairly familiar with this. Building all that up with all the nice lovely call outs here telling you what everything is: air pump, water pipes, cylinders, intake pipes, camshaft, etc, etc. The bottom wings again with this dihedral wing, as we saw in the other version. And then we've got the radiators, and this is the larger radiator, instead of the twin one, this is the larger version, because obviously they realised they were more efficient, I think. And then over here we have got centre section, the cell detail during the initial testing, and then you can see you've got your nacelles going in there, the engines and nacelles all going together with a little bit of cowling going on. Then you've got your interplane struts going in, get ready for the top wing to come down, and you build it up. And again, just like the other kit, you need to put it upside down a flat surface to get the dihedral correct on the lower wing, so it looks like anhedral there because you've turned it upside down. And now the interesting part that's very different. So we've got these floats now. Here we go. Now these are huge, like great big canoes almost. Got the struts going in there, placing them underneath. It says here, showing the initial testing phase, the floats appear to be dark varnished wood. Excuse me, I've still got this cough. It's just a minor irritation here. These struts are difficult to attach but do not need to be assembled now. These struts are difficult to attach. It sounds a bit worrying, doesn't it? Centre section of the 120 showing its initial testing. Note the complicated rear float to the fuselage struts. Yes. I'm going to just have a time for a coffee break, I think. Cheers. Not quite the same, is it? Not quite the same. Right. Fuselage, wings, propellers and the tailplane we're getting to now. Here we go. It's better over here. Like this. Right. So, you're putting in, this is the proboscis, the bomb dropping tube. Now what's interesting about this is they've actually faired it in. You can see they're learning about aerodynamics all the time. In the other aircraft it was actually a rack, wasn't it? But they've now decided to have a bomb dropping tube, but it's faired so there's no drag behind it because it would be very draggy. Clever. Here we've got some painting tips about how to produce your propeller, which is quite nice, isn't it? Paint tips there. Getting the wood effects, that'd be quite nice. Paint tips A. Oh, it's not, okay, it's, I take it back, it's not painting tips, it's paint the tips. I misunderstood. Right, here you got your fins and your rudder, and this has got the, now interestingly, it's showing, that is odd, it's now showing you using the smaller, it's the opposite of what I said earlier, it's using the smaller elevators and tailplane, not the really huge ones. So the huge ones must be the land plane. And then you've got your fin and rudder going in, twin fins, got German crosses on it, looks great. And then you've got some struts going across there as well. Very fine struts indeed. Then we're into the armaments, so we've got our parabellum again, bit of repeat what we saw before. The ammunition magazine going on, you've got these, as I always say, three options. Use the plastic parabellum, or use the plastic parabellum that has the jacket made up of the PE, as you see here, being formed into a cylindrical shape. Or you go to gas patch models and get some of their very fine resin ones. You've got the 10 kilogram carbonate bombs going in, and then you've got your anemometer to go on top of the starboard wing there, and your parabellum, the photograph there of the parabellum. This particular gun may have come from LVG D9. LVG D9 was a seaplane version of the LVG C1. Interesting, okay. And then you've got your gun ring and your gun support mount. And then here we've got some interesting photos. Look at this. What we have here is a number of items that were carried in the aircraft. You've got your carbonate bombs, you've got your flare pistols, there's all sorts of things. The drum, ammunition drum, magazine. You've got rope, you've got gasoline tins, you name it really. It says it includes bombs, small bombs, oil cans, flare pistols, tools, compass and binoculars, etc. And a camera there. Camera. It's got here the original FU photograph. That's the same photo we saw in the other model actually. In fact we saw both those photos in the other model, so I just flashed past that. And then we've got this rigging guide. Oh my goodness, look at this. You're going to have to be a bit careful here when you've got these delicate floats in place on the struts. Take your time because it's going to be quite a long operation. I can't wait to watch Jason doing this because I'm hoping I might learn something, because rigging is not my specialty, folks. So what is his specialty then? I think my specialty is trying to translate and discombobulate kinetic instructions. Oh yes. By the way, recently my friend Phil Flory was, I don't know what he was on about. He'd seen my rant about kinetic, and he in a live show he said that it was the same kit that he'd made, and I didn't see it was that difficult. Words to that effect. Well, I'm sorry Phil if you're watching this, it's not the same. The kit is not the same. Some of the sprues are the same. The instructions bear no resemblance apart from the very first page. Yeah, the Sea Harrier, the first page which shows the engines going together and the cockpit is the same, and then the rest of the instructions are completely different. And all the things I complained about in my rant, I wouldn't say they addressed them, but they improved slightly. They started to put arrows. Very strange the way they did it as well. They put these arrows that pointed into various places anyway. But no, they weren't the same, so that's not quite correct what he said there, but not to worry. Bit of a misunderstanding. I suggest he goes back and looks at the original kit, and then he'll understand, I think. So there you go. That's my specialty, trying to discombobulate and understand and translate instructions. But I'm not doing that anymore. Right, here we go, the Gotha, UWD. Look at that. Look at them. I like the way they've got the natural wood effect. It's really nice, actually, isn't it? Isn't it attractive? It says it was a sole example of its type. It was ordered in April 15 and delivered to the Navy testing facilities at Warnemünde in December 15, where it underwent successful trials in January to February 16. It was modified with additional viewing windows, a proboscis bomb dropping tube, balanced ailerons, in time for it to participate in raids across the English coast on the 19th of March, which killed 9 civilians and 6 children, 5 soldiers and a chicken in Dover. Well, not too worried about the chicken, I've got to be honest, but the rest, that's bad. Bad Germans, bad. Go to UWD 120 remained in service until the 2nd of October when it was written off in a crash. I think you told us that already, but anyway. Showing the proboscis bomb dropping tube at Zeebrugge. Zeebrugge, how about that? Look at these photos, these are really good. So there it is, the proboscis, and in the photo below it, it says it's lowered into the water on a crane. The proboscis is barely visible. Another photo of the UWD here. In flight, note the lack of crosses on the recently fitted balanced ailerons. Oh yes. 120 here is shown in flight, reportedly on its way to bomb the English coast on the 19th of March 1916. Note the window cut out into the nose. The window cut into the nose. Proboscis. Bomb dropping tube and the heavily discoloured rear fuselage. You can barely make out the proboscis. Oh yes you can, sorry. I'm thinking, yeah, it's the angle it's at. Okay, yeah, it's here. It's here. I thought it was the wing on the other side. It's a little bit hard to figure that out, actually. When you realise you're looking at it from slightly left and rear, port and rear, then you can understand it. And then here we've got colour call-outs showing this lovely wooden effects that it's got. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, there are several different wood finishes I think are required here, so you're going to have to up your game, people. Be on your A game. So that's really nice. Then we've got some more smashing photographs. Just going back ever so slightly. So what we got here? We've got, look at it landing in the water. That's great. Undergoing the testing at Warnemünde. The normal complement of crew was intended to be 3, although at least 4 can be seen in this photograph. Yes, indeed, the top one. In one instance, it carried 6 people as ballast. Note the dark varnished plywood nose section and the rear of the fuselage, where it's wooden again. Look at that, you can see it clearly, can't you? That's really good. And then we've got it on the little undercarriage trestle things, like dollies here. Counter-rotating integral propellers. So it's all about, like it said, the idea of having them so close together was in case one of them failed, and then it wouldn't, you know, pitch you into a spin basically. That's incredible. Really, really good. Last but not least, oh, it's saying there's a matte varnish here. Note the wingtip streamers and how the matte finish and the rib tape stand out against the gloss finish. Oh yeah, you can see it. You can see it. To build A1 as shown here, omit the bomb dropping nose proboscis. Well, I quite like that. And use an unbalanced ailerons and fill the nose windows. Yeah, I think I prefer the other version myself, but anyway. And then final picture here, undergoing testing. Note the opaque nature of the linen covering. Fantastic. And then all the great heroes at Wingnut Wings, many of whom now, as we've said before, now work at Kutare. Brilliant that, brilliant that. I'm going to enjoy watching Jason build his, because I don't think I'll be building mine, gotta be honest. But it's a lovely kit, and then we've got, obviously we've got our markings, decals. Some of it you will use, some you maybe won't use. And yeah, not perhaps quite as attractive as they were on the other version, I don't think. Not as varied, shall we say. And then we have our photo etch here. There it is. Usual thing. You got gun sight, belts and buckles for the pilot, and then the Spandau cooling jacket. All there. Right. Okay. Let us have a look at the plastic then. I have a feeling that there's actually less sprues than there was. Excuse me. Time for another drink. I think there are less sprues than there was on the land version of the Gotha. It doesn't look quite as many. The box isn't quite as full. Let's start with this one. It's really classic. Okay. I won't zoom in too much, and I think I might just turn down my light. That's better. That's better. Right. So, this time they've actually mounted it on the sprue in a different way as well. So it starts off obviously with the float, the bottom of the float. Is that the bottom or is that the top? I think that is the... I think that's the top, in fact. It's the top of the float. Because you've got the point here for the struts to fit in. Then you've got your little, look at this, your proboscis and your bomblets. They're getting straight into it here, aren't they? Look at that. There we go. There's your bomb dropping tube proboscis. And it actually has, look at that, they've even formed it into a tube properly on the back. You can see it, look at that. Here. Oh, that's fantastic. And all the little bomblets look fantastic. I like it. And then we have got, obviously, the main forward fuselage here, with your front cupola stroke pulpit. Engine control rods over here. These here and here. A couple of propellers. Gosh, I'm going to zoom further out, it's crazy. A couple of propellers there. Over here we've got all sorts of pipes and fittings, tubes for your engine, cooling, radiators. It's nice, isn't it? Beautifully moulded. And we've got some of the big struts over here. And of course we've got everything on this sprue, hasn't it? We've got the parabellum, two versions of the parabellum, with the jacket in plastic or with the jacket left off for you to put the photo etch on there. That is a lovely sprue, so I'm going to pop that back in the box. Then, sure enough, the floats are back on the floats. I'll carry on with the theme here. So now you can see the underside of the float, so you can actually see how it's shaped like a boat hull. Sort of doesn't have a keel as such, but it has this almost like a landing craft style to it, doesn't it? See that? see the way it's quite aquadynamic at the back. Good design, weren't they? Good design. Here you've got your nacelles for the engines, or nacelle covers I should say, the sort of cowls for the engines. We've got some more bomblets. They keep popping up all over the place, these bomblets do, don't they? Look at that. And then we've got various little struts and braces. Some lovely detailed parts here, I've got to say. A number of pieces of struts. Various struts here. Very, very nice indeed. Extremely nice. Extremely nice. Like that. And then that's repeated, that whole screw is a repeat. So that one can go back in there. Then we have got our engine. And this is also a repeated sprue, so obviously because there are two engines we have two of these. And we've got a beautiful propeller. Very nicely formed, isn't it? We've got, it says Wingnut Wings there. Got our cylinders, we've got our ignition system, and we've got the cylinder head. Is that the sump? That's the sump. I always get mixed up on these. That's the sump, I think, isn't it? Yes, sump. Then we've got cylinders here. That's the cylinder head. And the cylinders actually come in two halves, you can see there. And then over here we've got various, like the carburetor system. We've got the end of the casing here. Fuel pump, I think we've got there. I think I might say that's fuel pump. One or two other parts here. And quite a lot of fine moulding going on here, it has to be said. Very, very nice indeed. You can see that we've got the there are several little components where you're almost thinking, well, what are they actually? What are they? Remarkable stuff, really. Beautiful. There's two of them, as I say. Whoops, come back a bit. Two of these. So we will put those two in the box together. And then we have the clear parts. Now there's more clear parts in this kit, a lot more, because it has these windows which are not in the original Gotha. So, let's have a little look. It's not a resealable bag, unfortunately. So there's the original vestigial windscreen. That's all that was in the first kit. Now we have all these little windows. There's side windows. I think there's a lower window, viewing window. And I guess the idea is that when they're on the sea, they're going to have their heads down a bit more than if they were on the land. And they need to have a clear view, watching out for any shipping or anything else that might be in the water. Visibility becomes much more critical, I think, when you're in a seaplane, not on a dedicated airfield, because you don't know. Anything can happen, you know, a flock of seagulls can come in and cause problems or whatever. And then we have got the fuselage. Now this is not dissimilar, in fact I think it's the same sprue as was in the original kit. Pretty much from just glancing at it. It's got the cutouts that we talked about, so I won't spend too long on this one. It's got the cutouts here at the bottom of the wing. You've got your the flared out ailerons that we talked about, and you've got your elevators, and these are the elevators from the other version, so these are not used on the seaplane anyway. So then you've got this very long, spindly looking fuselage, and here it is. There's the section there. Massive section. And yeah, as I say, that's definitely the same sprue. That's one sprue that is common to both kits. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I'll put that one back. And then, finally, and again, this is also common. This is also common sprue. So this is the big wing sprue. And this is what I said last time when I said how massive it was and how big the kit will be when it's finished. It's a big model. This big aircraft. It's not far off a Lancaster bomber. Not quite. Okay, but maybe it's not far off a Wellington. It's a decent size, you know. It's not a small plane, especially for something so, you know, spindly looking, and yeah, it's remarkable. But there we go. So let's have a look. Wow, there we have it. There we have it. Quite remarkable. And there's lots and lots of ribs on these, on the aircraft. On the wings, you can see there are plenty of ribs, and lots of detail underneath, both sides. Some beautiful detail here on these, on the elevators where you've got the hinges. Remarkable, remarkable. Yes. So there we are. My goodness. What a machine. That's really impressive, and it's interesting. It's much more interesting than I thought it was going to be, actually. It's not just a couple of floats, there's far more to it than that. So yes, there's quite a big differential, sort of differentiator, so to speak. Just bear with me 1 second. Just going to pop the lid back on. Have our verdict. Have our verdict. Now then. So, where am I? 10 out of 10. Obviously, obs. What can you say though? I mean, the thing is just absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Really, it's beautiful. And I really wanted to go through that. Say some of the parts are in common with the other aircraft, but it's got such an interesting history, hasn't it? And you can see all these sort of portrays one or two of the windows and things in the artwork. Proboscis on the front there. Absolutely amazing, isn't it? Really. See if I can get that in for you a bit more. Beautiful, isn't it? Very, very nice. Anyway, there we have it. That is actually my final review from the Wingnut Wings Lost Ark. And I hope you've all enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed it a great deal. So thank you for joining me. Hope you'll give me 10 out of 10 with a thumbs up. A like, please, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have subscribed, don't forget to ding the notification bell, etc, etc, so you get notification of anything new that's coming up. Somebody did say to me the other week in one of the comments, I think it was after one of the shows that I did, Wingnut Wings Lost Ark, and somebody actually asked me a question, and I want to just show you something, because this will make more sense in a moment. I think if you can just bear with me a second, because I need to just I'm going to move back my beautiful kit for a sec, and I want to just bring in something here. Yeah, somebody asked me the question. They said, so tell me, what exactly happens at the end? At the end, he said, you've got all these kits you brought from Wingnut Wings. They're worth quite a lot of money, and how do you store them and how do you keep them? Well, I mentioned that I put these desiccant gel packs, these moisture absorbing packs in, but as regards what do I do with them next, well obviously there's one, I think I might build that Sopwith Camel, but as for the rest of them, here is the answer to all your questions. What happens to them? Well, this is what happens to them, yeah? And I think you know the music that plays in the background for this one. Going back into the Ark being taken away to a place of safety, yeah, where of course it will be looked after by top men. Who? Top men, okay? You get the picture. Never to see the light of day again. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Or am I? Anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you found it was interesting. It's so pleasurable to see the forensic detail, which you have to reciprocate to Wingnut Wings by going through it in the way that I have, because they've gone into such forensic detail, and you know, why can't we have more manufacturers? I don't think all manufacturers should have to be the same as them. Of course not. But why can't one or two of them just up their game? And I'm thinking particularly that Tamiya is the one that would find it probably easiest to get closer to that standard. Of course, Qatari are doing it, although we've had this issue where they haven't given us an engine in the Spitfire, which is a bit unfortunate, and there's rather slightly taken the gloss off that release, I'm afraid. But it is an otherwise beautiful piece of work with great research. They haven't got far to move. They've got the least work to do to get back to where Wingnut Wings were, because they are the guys that were doing it the first time. So let's hope that they do. Let's hope that they do. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned to the channel, because before you know it, there'll be something else interesting coming up, I'm sure. Thanks all for watching. Please look after yourselves. Stay safe, stay well. Thanks a lot. Until next time, bye for now.